Hello, welcome back to the workshop. I'm Simon and today I'm going to be trying to address some of the shortcomings of my table saw fence. Now they're not unique to the Axminster range of table saws. These issues are likely to occur on many table saws in this price range and below. Let's get tinkering. Now the first issue with the table saw fence, and one that I highlighted when I did a review of this table saw, is that when you move the fence, before you lock it down, it's not square. When you lock it down, it becomes square and you see the fence move. So the fence is pretty good at staying square, but this movement where when you lock it down it moves into square makes it harder to make small changes. So what I want to try and achieve is that when I move the fence backwards and forwards, I don't get this movement here, which is caused by there being play in the guide rail for the fence. So I think the best thing to do is to remove this PTFE tape here. You can see that it's slipped at some point. I think it's always been like this actually, and it's slipped down. So I'm going to try and get rid of it, and we'll start again with some new PTFE tape, and hopefully one that's slightly thicker. I need to clean this off. I'm just going to get some white spirits just to clean all the gunk off of it. You've got a nice surface to start with. So I bought this PTFE tape. It's incredibly slippery. Feels a lot more slippery than the tape that's on here. If you buy this, you need to get the self-adhesive stuff because nothing will actually glue it normally. I'm going to go the whole length. Obviously it's too wide. I'm going to have to reduce its width. I think I'm just going to do a very thin strip and just see if I can get away with it. If not, I might have to pare it back a little bit. We'll see. Okay, let's see if that's worked or if it's too thick. So it's not too thick, it fits, but there is still play. It's better, but it's not perfect. Going to try repositioning it and see if that helps. Put it further up the curve. So there is still play. I'm going to try changing this for a slightly wider piece and see if that helps. There's still some movement. So I'm going to try one last thing because I think this needs to be a little bit deeper and I can't make the tape any thicker. Now I have some of this very thin silver tape. It's used for taping together insulation boards and sort of that bubble wrap insulation. I'm just going to try using a little bit of this on first just to make the PTFE tape just that little bit thicker. This is just one thickness of the tape. Let's see if that helps. Well, that seems to have worked. Let me just show you in close-up. Let me just orient you. This here is the fence. This is the end of the fence. I'm going to move it and then move it back. And you can, I've tightened it down and it hasn't moved. I should do the same one last time. And it's not moved. I'm really happy with that. Now the next problem I have is this little lens with the line across it is a little bit loose and it always ends up moving, so I don't end up using this at all. Now I thought there's a little spring here that holds it in place and I assumed that this spring was in a little recess, but it's not. So I think I should be able to just push the spring down once I've got that line in the right place. I should just be able to push it down with the screwdriver to make it snug. Well, that's down. Hopefully that now won't move again like it has in the past. So this last change that I want to make is a modification to the fence. At the moment, in front of the blade, bed supports just under 7.5 inches. What I want to do is add a piece of wood in front here like this, fitted to the fence so that I get more support. Now I'm sort of thinking of doubling the amount of support to about 13 inches, which would bring this piece of wood to about here. So it's only a small piece of wood, what I also want to do is shift this along here like this. Now obviously this is no good because it's not flush with the bed, so I'm going to have to cut out a lot of this in order to get it flush with the fence. I just think that'll look nicer. But when it's on this piece, I can feel that this is slightly under the bed itself, so I'll need to add a little bit of padding. I'll use some tape or something just to get this perfect, and I can fix it using these T-tracks. Now I still want to be able to use the gauge, so I'm also going to have to drill a hole here so that I can still see the gauge, but it should be a reasonably simple job. First thing I need to do, tidy up this piece of wood and chop it to size. So the first thing I do is trim the wood square on the end and then chop it to size. The actual sizes are quite arbitrary, but I'm going to cut it about 85mm by 165mm. I want to round the corners, so I first mark them using a radius template. I then trim it on the bandsaw. And tidy it up on the disc sander. I then create a recess to accommodate the fence attachment hardware. Okay, so what I've done is I've created this groove here just to accommodate these nuts here so that it goes straight across like that. I can feel there's a slight lip there. It's maybe 1/2 millimetre, maybe 1/4 millimetre, so I need to sort that out, and I'll do that by raising everything up slightly, but I should do that just by adding small pieces of tape to these surfaces. This is the view from underneath the guide for the fence, and I hadn't realised I need to remove the lens now so that I can mark up where it'll be on the piece of wood so that I can cut the hole. When doing this, I can speak from experience, that spring clip will fly miles, so keep your hand underneath it and push the lens out from underneath, and then you'll know where the spring clip is and you won't have to tidy the whole of your garage to find it. I cut the hole with a Forstner bit and then sand the edges. So I just need a way to fix this now, and I'm thinking I can put screws in here that are countersunk, so they're below the level of the board, that go into bolts in these tracks. So I just need to mark out the distance to the middle of these tracks so that I can mark where I need to drill the holes. I wonder if anyone's still watching. If you are, then a comment down below just to say you're enjoying the video would be lovely. I select some suitable nuts and bolts from my stock and then remove the end cap on the fence slide. I quickly test that the nuts that I've chosen actually fit in the slots. The bolts are M6, so I'm using a 7mm brad point bit, so I have a little bit of wiggle room. I then countersink the holes. I can't work out why it's doing this, but it's leaving a star shape, the same shape as the bit, which is a bit weird. So I'm going to change the countersink bit. I've never had experienced that before. I wasn't going to paint it until I remembered I had some red paint that was exactly the same colour as the table saw. So I've worked out if I use this cardboard shim just here, it'll raise this piece up just enough that it's completely flush with the bed. So hopefully you can see that the addition of this little piece here adds a lot of extra support. So with the blade all the way up, the blade would start here, and you can see that if I'm trying to push this long piece through, then I've only got a very small amount of the total length of this piece on the bed, and there's very little room really. But now with this extra support, I've doubled the amount of length that's supported by the bed, so it just feels a lot more secure. It's quite amazing actually just how much more secure it feels. So there you have it, 3 simple tweaks to a small table saw. If you want to learn more about this table saw and some of the jigs and things that I've made for it and some of the other mods that I've done on it, then have a look over there. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you haven't already, then please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.